Hi, welcome to the She Moves Mountains podcast. This is your host, Kamala Murphy. Thanks for joining us today as we talk about some of the juicy stuff we women experience that makes this life journey truly amazing. You know, the nitty-gritty, the love, the loss, the falling down and rising up, the getting lost and finding our way again. To our hearts, our happiness, and to the awareness that we can and do move mountains. Thank you for joining. Hi, this is Kamala. Welcome back to the She Moves Mountains podcast. Today's episode is about embracing Plan B. It's where we have fallen down and maybe we've laid there for a little while, and now it's time to rise up and see how life unfolds, really accept that. Because oftentimes we have expectations of how our life will be or should be, our plan A for our lives, right? And sometimes we know that life does not always happen the way we thought it would. And sometimes even worse, it feels like our hopes and dreams are just out and out, ripped out from underneath us. And there are probably times that you want to scream at life, this isn't how it's supposed to be. At least I felt that way. Because when things don't work out like we expect, it's a loss. And it can actually, in some ways, break our hearts and sometimes bring us to our knees, even devastate us. But what I've found is that the women who move mountains find that after a time, our broken hearts, battered hearts can heal. We learn to rise up again and begin to embrace the life that's unfolding. And it's maybe even better than we expected. It's kind of like those Japanese kintsugi pottery, where the pottery's been broken and it's brought back together with gold where the breaks were, and it's even more beautiful than the pot was initially. So as we rise up and recognize that this plan B is really beautiful, we recognize that there are some real gifts in there somewhere. I call that embracing Plan B. One of my favorites, Maya Angelou, wrote that you may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. It is necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are and what you can rise from. And that, to me, it's that reminder that life is going to kick us around some. But when we face the defeat, the heartbreak, the heartache, we can dig in deeper and become more of who we're meant to be. You know, when I was a kid, I was raised on Disney movies, princes and princesses and living happily ever after. And that song about when you wish upon a star, all your dreams come true. Well, it's not always true. Even though I knew that all that was fantasy, the stuff of fairy tales, part of me really was quite a dreamer. At 27, I was living my plan A. I thought this is my life. I had a nice house in the suburbs and a really handsome husband and a beautiful little boy. It was not the perfect marriage, but I was living in my own little Disney story. I thought this was my ever after, until the night my husband came home and said, "Hun, we need to talk. I've fallen in love with someone else." And took my breath away. He'd fallen in love with someone else. How could that happen? I couldn't catch my breath. And I knew from the way he said it that this was serious for him. It was not just a fling. So just like that, my dream, my plan A for my life fell apart because being a divorced single mom definitely wasn't my plan. And there was no way that this was supposed to happen to me, right? Although I felt like my world had fallen apart, I came to realize that God, that Spirit had a more, a different plan for me. And it didn't happen overnight, but I came to find the blessings in it. Because life doesn't give us any guarantees. Sometimes it does, it's just like swoops in and insists that you change course. And we don't have to like it. I certainly didn't. We can keep insisting that our life should follow our plans. But when we do that, we wind up bitter and miserable and in pain. Our other choice is to loosen our grip on how things were supposed to be and embrace how life unfolds. Maybe even being able to find that this plan B is actually divinely crafted and a lot richer than you might ever have imagined, even if it feels kind of like hell at the time. And that's what I found. As great a guy as my husband he is still a great guy. We weren't meant to be together. We both had different paths to follow. And this always reminds me of the Rumi poem, The Guest House, about being human and it just sometimes just life knocking us off course or swooping in. And I'll read this. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door, laughing, and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. And I know that I'm not always meeting them at the door laughing and inviting them in, but it's a good reminder that it's possible, and that the more we are able to let go of our grip on the way things are supposed to be, the better off we're going to be. The broken heart doesn't last as long, or it becomes something more beautiful, like that kintsugi pottery. And when I talk about broken hearts, typically people think about the love relationships. And for me, a lot of the heartbreak in my life has been around love relationships. But heartache can come from a number of other circumstances in our lives. There have been dreams that have been dashed by unexpected circumstances and events. I think of all of the people who lost everything in Paradise here in Northern California, or in other natural disasters, or in the financial fiascos, a handful of years ago. Dreams went up literally, in some cases, in smoke. Or life can be turned upside down by unexpected illness or injury. Like me, you probably have friends who who expected to live long and healthy lives, but who've become ill. And some have overcome serious illness and some haven't. Or we've got friends who've lost partners to suicide. I think of friends who really had dreams of becoming wives and mothers and weren't able to conceive or couldn't carry a child to term. Heartache can show up in a bunch of ways. And then there are some really dear friends who've lost their children um, to illness or accident or violence. Think of even just recently, kids being killed at schools or suicide. And these are such heartbreak. I'm thinking of one gal in particular whose son committed suicide, and she'll never be the same, but she is such an inspiration of courage and digging in deep to just be this amazing, really amazing woman. And I know she inspires all of her colleagues and loved ones. So even though the meaning of the heartache may not be clear, there may be something that is a gift, perhaps to someone else. And this is a quote from Oprah Winfrey about the tragedies and the heartache. Although there may be tragedy in your life, there's always a possibility of triumph. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. The ability to triumph begins with you, always. And I think of this woman I just spoke about who has overcome so much in the loss of her son, and yet is such a beacon of depth and courage for the rest of us. The people we know who have had these tragedies, who have had these heartaches, some of them have not embraced the plan B. Some of them have become bitter and angry, and some have begun to embrace their life as it is now. When we've held on to our plan A, those unfulfilled hopes and dreams, and not been able to let go, when we've forgotten that we have the ability to triumph, we may just need a little reminding. So I invite you to take the heartache quiz that's on my website, and I'll include that in the link in the show notes. Because being able to release at least some of the heartache opens the way for you to embrace the plan B with a greater appreciation for yourself and for your life. And before I go for today, I just wanted to share this poem that I saw. It was on Facebook that I really, I just love it. And because it's so true. It's by L.R. Nost or Nost, not sure the pronunciation, but it goes, life is amazing, and then it's awful, and then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and the awful, it's ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, and relax and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living heartbreaking, soul healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful. And that feels like the truth. It's all of those things. And when we have heartache, it's part of life. And we can grow from it and be like that kintsugi pottery just be even more beautiful and more valuable, even though we've been broken. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me, and tune in next week. Take care. Bye for now. You've been listening to the She Moves Mountains podcast, coming to you every week. If you're a woman who wants to move mountains in your own life, please make sure to subscribe or follow this podcast. And if you've laughed or gotten teary or smiled knowingly, thinking, oh yeah, that's me too, please go ahead and rate the episode with 5 stars. It'll be a feel-good thing to do. Thanks a bunch. Lots of love and blessings to you. This is Kamala signing off. Until next week. Take care.